Welcome everyone to episode 48 of Raw Sport. My name is Ahmed Al-Houli and my co-host Mr. Tony Sheen joins me on the show. Tony, how are you, buddy? What's happening?
Ahmed, good morning. It's a great 24 hours for us here on Raw Sport. We were live into Perth last night with Stephen Gargo after his win in Perth Friday night, and now we've moved to Sydney and introduced our next guest.
Absolutely. We went head-to-head last night with the State of Origin. Unfortunately for our next guest, he's from New South Wales. They had a disappointing loss. Mr. Youssef Dib joins us on the show. Youssef, how are you, buddy? What is happening, mate?
I'm very well. Thank you guys for having me on. And not too much. Just chilling, enjoying the morning. Just finished my morning run. And yeah, pleasure to be on here with you guys.
It's our absolute pleasure, mate. Youssef, you've got a huge fight coming up. Before we get into all the fight antics and all the details around the fight, who is Youssef Dib? Where did this journey start?
So Youssef Dib is just one of 7 siblings, and I was born in Sutherland Hospital, and I guess, man, for me, I've just come from a nice and big family. As you know, coming from a Lebanese and Palestinian background, family is a very important thing for us. So, and being the youngest, man, I've had a lot of people to look up to. I've got plenty of older brothers, 5 older brothers and one older sister. And it's just been a good life for me, man. But just trying to make my mark in not just the sport of boxing, but my mark in life, and trying to make my parents proud. I feel that my father's done an amazing job raising, all of my siblings and myself included, and I just want to make him proud more than anything, and that's pretty much it. Now I'm a family man. I've got a family of my own, 2 children with 1 on the way. So there's plenty of things to look forward to in life for me, man.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You come from a very successful family. I would regard. You got 2 older brothers who are in the public spotlight. One similar industry as yourself, boxing world champion. Does that put any pressure on you, Youssef?
Look, I think when I was a bit younger, I sort of used to put a bit more pressure on myself, but not so much, to succeed in boxing and things like that, but just more so, like I said, to make my father proud. I just sort of had this thing where, and I was probably forced to grow up a little bit quicker than most children because, it's not just having older brothers, but they were so much older. So my eldest brother, Jihad, who you're talking about, is in the public spotlight as a member of parliament. He's 20 years older than me, and then it sort of rolls on. And then the youngest brother that is closest in age is Billy, and he's like 7 or 8 years older than me. So, I've sort of always looked up to them and just wanted to sort of follow in their footsteps. And I was at high school while they were making their marks in life, and I just always sort of tried to stay away from any trouble and things like that, just to. So I could say I put pressure on myself in that way, but in everything else, I'm happy to be who I am, as long as I'm trying my best in life. And that's the sort of lesson that I'm trying to give to my children as well. That doesn't matter where you get to, but just do your best. So, yeah.
Wow. Take us through your boxing journey. You came up through the amateur ranks, moved into the pro ranks, and it's all been under Billy Hussein.
Yeah.
He's been there since day one. How much of a role has Billy played in your life, inside and outside the ring?
Oh, well, Billy Hussein, you know him, Ahmed, and he's an amazing human being, and more so than just a coach. He's a lot more than that, man. Like he's sort of been a father figure to me, a brotherly figure to me. He's just somebody that's been there, whether it's been, through my boxing journey or whether it's through life. I've had things outside of boxing which haven't really gone, the way that most people would want. And, he's always been there, man. And he's just a real honest person and somebody that will tell you how it is. And, just want to be there for you in all walks of life. So he's an amazing person. I could have seen myself being with anybody else as a boxing trainer first and foremost, but I'm just completely, I'm very happy with where I'm at in terms of the gym, in terms of having him as a trainer, and being overseas, having been overseas and seeing other trainers, like you could see, man, just for them it's just work for them, Whereas with Billy, you can see he puts his life and passion, as many trainers do, but he puts everything into it and makes sure that you're okay first and foremost, and he's not afraid to make hard decisions that might not please the fighter, but he's not afraid to do that, in order to protect his fighters. So, all respect to him.
Wow. You're on a great streak of wins. I've watched a few of your fights down at Hurstville, the famous Hurstville Centre.
Hurstville Entertainment.
Yeah. On all of Billy's cards, and then all of a sudden, you had a great win on Fox on the no limit cards. Then you had another fight against Ibi Bella, which I think many thought you would come out victorious.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you copped a split just above your eye. I don't think it came down through, and your whole demeanor changed in that fight. Take me through those moments, because you looked really good before it, and then all of a sudden that happened, and then we're seeing, you just weren't yourself anymore. Take us through that experience. We've seen that happen a lot recently. Happened with Zoo, yourself, and many, many others. Take us through that whole experience of copping that gash and how that changed your whole mindset.
Yeah, look, so obviously it happened in the second round, but look, Ahmed, I would not sort of want to use that as an excuse as to why I lost.
No.
Like that.
We are using that. I just want people to understand from a fighter's perspective what that does. That's all.
Yeah, look, I guess you sort of. The thing is, you don't see it right off the bat. I didn't see the extent of it. I didn't see how gruesome it was. I didn't see any of that. Like, it was just, okay, it happened. You feel that trickle of blood. The blood starts to go into your eye, and it's just a bit of a distraction. Like it is. It's a little bit of a distraction. So it sort of might create a bit of desperation for you, because you start thinking, oh, okay, like what if the ref stops the fight now? You don't want it to sort of go to a no contest. You've put in, 8 to 10 weeks of work prior. So you don't want to think about, okay, I'm going to walk away with a no contest here, which, to be honest with you, it probably would have been the best possible result for me at that time. But And I remember Billy Hussein saying to me, like straight after the fight, he goes, man, I was going to pull you. He goes, because I knew that it was. He goes, but I just didn't want you to turn around and be like, oh, like you've got no faith in me and things like that. But, look, things happen in the sport of boxing, man. That's something you can't control. Obviously, we clashed heads, and, I did feel like I was doing pretty well before it, but I still should have been able to make the right adjustments in order to come up with the victory. I've taken it as a big lesson, and I feel like those lessons are going to hold me in good stead for the rest of my career. More so than that, I was more upset of the fact that I sort of went into that fight not really respecting Ibi, and more so his resistance more than anything, because even though I probably don't consider myself a massive power puncher or anything like that, but I just thought that I was going to be able to hit him and he wasn't going to be able to take it, and I sort of went into the fight with that mindset, and obviously it bit me on the bum. So I've got to take the lessons out of that and become a better fighter, and I believe that's what I'm doing. So obviously that was 2 fights ago now for me, and now I'm not going to make that same mistake again, and that's a positive.
Youssef, that's a really good insight. In terms of, just to digress for a moment, when you said the blood had started coming into your eye, it sounds like that it almost created a little bit of doubt, and it's going to give us and the viewers a greater insight into what goes in your mind when the blood does go in your eye.
Yeah, look, it does. It does like sow that bit of doubt, but like I had been cut the fight before as well against Miles Zaluski, and obviously I went through a lot more adversity in that one where he dropped me quite hard in the 6th round, and to be honest with you, I was probably in the worst state that I've been in at that point. You know, like sometimes I watch that over and I'm like, man, how the hell did you get up? Because, you know, I was out. Like, I'd seen my arm sort of reaching up towards the rope at one point, you know, when I was down. I was like, what's going on here? And then, you know, I seen the referee and I was like, okay, bounce up. You got to get up here. And, you know, they may say that I spat the mouth guard out on purpose, but it happened a few rounds before and it wasn't on purpose. I actually had to replace my mouth guard after that because it was getting loose. It was getting loose in sparring and things like that. But look, I had dealt with it before, so I thought that I was going to be able to come through that. I have an amazing cut man in Brian Wilmot who, you know, was able to sort of stem the flow of blood as well. So look, like I said, I can't use that as the reason that I lost. Obviously, it doesn't help, but it is what it is, man. You got to deal with those sorts of things. And, you know, you see Tim Tszyu lost his world title based on that cut happening. And I believe that had that cut not happened, he was well on his way to probably earning a stoppage win. But things happen. You got to bounce back from it. You know, worse things have happened to fighters. Fighters have dislocated shoulders and won, things like that. So there's no excuses in boxing, man. It's either it's your night or it's not. And that night belonged to Ibi, and it is what it is, man.
It's a bit like Andrew Maloney when he tore his bicep in training and then went out and fought and lost on the points decision in Perth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole reason why I asked the question, fighters, we know, you know that, Tony, as well, will never, like, good fighters never give excuses. Why I ask that question is because I want the viewer to understand what happens in that moment. It's about the experience of the moment. That's all it is. No more, no less. And because it's such watching on TV doesn't do it justice. I've been at fights ringside where the blood has come. There's a cut that's happened. The fighter goes after the cut, and the blood starts trickling off the fighter's head onto us ringside, literally, right? So it's the appreciation for the fighters is what we're trying to extract here, not the vice versa. If that actually makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It makes a lot of sense, and it is obviously any hardship to deal with in the ring. It's hard enough, you know what I mean, and that's why all respect, like you said, to Andrew Maloney, who's gone in there with a torn bicep. Like, you know, mate, 90% of fighters would have pulled out, you know, but obviously he looked at it like it was a big opportunity and he backed himself, and I still believe he did do enough to win that fight, regardless of the torn bicep or not. So, you know, that's just a testament to his character. And most fighters, you know, will go through hardships in fights. It is what it is, man. Like, you might get dropped, you might get cut, you might get hurt, you might get buzzed. It is what it is, you know. Like, it's how you come through those things that really prove who you are and prove your worth as a fighter, you know.
There's always a niggle or two, from the rigorous training camps.
Definitely. Okay,
Liam Wilson, big puncher, big fight. He's had 2 attempts at a world title against Navarrete and Oscar Valdez. Some people believe he should have won the one against Navarrete. So Oscar Valdez, no, that was done and dusted. But it goes to show you, it's a game of inches, right? You can go 1 second from winning the world title to challenging time and time again, and the stars just don't align. Is this your biggest fight so far, Youssef? Would you consider this your biggest fight so far?
I think it's undoubtedly my biggest fight so far. You know, I am fighting against a former 2-time contender. So, you know, he's obviously proven himself on the world stage, and that's what makes me so excited, is that when I win this fight, people are going to realize that I belong on that world stage as well, because I look at him like he's a world-class fighter. And I touched on it at the press conference. I believe he's in the top 10 pound-for-pound rankings in Australia, so through his achievements. So that's what excites me about this fight. This is my real chance. This is this is an opportunity that I've been waiting for years, and it doesn't just come along like that. You know, it comes down to how much work you've put in for years and years prior to the fight actually coming together. And I'm so glad that, you know, I was approached and asked about it, because, you know, when we were asked, I jumped at it with open arms. I touched on it at the press conference as well, that it's a fight that Billy Hussein and I have sort of spoken about a fair bit and sort of felt like it was something that was coming. So, and a fight that we believe that we win. So once that offer came through, I jumped at it, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be preparing for what I consider the biggest fight of my career so far. It's not going to be the biggest fight of my career, but so far it is.
Youssef, what do you think of Liam Wilson?
I think he's an amazing fighter, and I think he's like I said, proven himself on the world stage. I believe he does have the tools to become a world champion. Whether or not he has the mindset to go with it, and I think that sort of showed in a couple of his fights, so far, where he might have been doing things a little bit more comfortably, but he's been drawn into firefights, and I felt like he was doing really well against Oscar Valdez in the early goings, and sort of went away from what was working for him. So whether that came through fatigue or whether that came through excitement or whatever it is, he made a few critical mistakes, I believe, and those are the sorts of things that we're going to have to capitalize on in this fight.
So what do you think of him as a person?
As a person, I've spoken to him a couple of times. I bumped into him whilst I was in Thailand during my last training camp, and obviously before we've decided we're going to fight each other and things like that. But and he's a nice enough guy, man. He came across as a good person. At the press conference for when I was fighting Ibi, we were sat next to each other and we had a decent conversation. He seems like a family man, and that's what I am as well. So I have no quarrels against him other than the fact that I want to beat the guy.
Do you fight against people you don't like, or that you just don't care about?
Look, to be honest with you, man, anytime you go into a fight with those sort of thoughts running through your head, I don't know, man. Like for me, I've probably not really gone into any fight against somebody that I don't genuinely like. Maybe the Kai McKenzie fight, because he did get a bit racial and things like that at the weigh-in prior to the fight, and that sort of led me to I did have a little bit of haste towards him, but at the end of the day, man, you got to go in there like clear-minded. You got to go in there with knowing that, okay, you've got a plan, you've got to execute your plan, and it doesn't matter what they do, because Kai was trying to do things like that to get into my head, because he knew he was going to get outboxed that night. He was trying to draw me into a firefight, and a fight that wasn't going to benefit me. So I knew walking away from the weigh-in, I was like, okay, this guy's completely desperate. I just got to go in there and execute the plan, and I've got this in the bag. So that's what I did that night, and that's what I plan to do every night, is go in there. And I don't really care about liking somebody, not liking somebody. At the end of the day, they're in my way, and that's it. I've got to get through them.
You said you've been on this journey for a very long time. What still motivates you, mate?
Well, your motivations change, don't they? Like as you grow a little bit older. When I was a bit younger, my motivation was to sort of step out of Billy's shadow. That was a lot of the time I was fighting to, so people could stop calling me Billy's brother. I wanted to be known as Youssef Dib, not as Billy Dib's younger brother. So, but as I've grown older and more mature, my motivations have changed. I'm a family man now. I've got 2 children already, and with another one on the way. So we're my motivation now is to give my children the best possible life that they can have, and it's to prove to them, especially my son who suffers from cerebral palsy, it's to prove to him that you can do whatever you put your mind to. Because I've been told my whole life, or not my whole life, but I've been told throughout my boxing career, you're not quite Billy, you don't really have the same attributes, and Billy's been doing it since he's a bit younger and things like that. So I just sort of want to prove that it doesn't matter what people say to you, that you're able to go out and get it if you work hard enough, man. And that's something that I try to show my son. And he displays that he displays that every single day.
Youssef, have you been able to accomplish that in terms of creating your own identity without being related to somebody?
I think so. Like a lot of people, still obviously look, at the end of the day, the same way that Tim is always going to be, related to his dad, I'm always going to be related to my brother. And it's not a bad thing, It's also opened many doors for myself. But at the end of the day, you sort of just want to be known as, okay, like as a fighter. You know, I'm not going to be the same fighter that Billy was, and we fight in completely different styles. We have, you know, very much different personalities as well. You know, he's a bit more of a happy-go-lucky guy, whereas I'm probably a bit more serious when it comes to things like that. And you know, at the same time, mate, I used to watch him coming up through his career, and there were certain things that he used to do, or like how he used to deal with anxiety and things like that, that I used to say to myself, like, okay, I'm going to learn from that for my own career. I believe I've stepped out of that shadow. I believe that, you know, and then look, if I go on and win a world title, people are still going to say, you know, brothers that have won world titles, and that's a beautiful thing to share. It's not always a negative thing.
Absolutely, mate. I think you've well established yourself as a big player on the boxing scene. I think there's a bright future ahead. Youssef, what's the biggest lesson you've learned from your journey so far?
Well, that's a good question, because there are many lessons. But the biggest lesson is that, like, truly, the biggest lesson is no one's gonna come and save you, man. Like, that's the truth. No one's gonna come and save you. It comes down to you, the amount of work that you're willing to put in. You know, how much you truly want it. Like, it all comes back to you. You know, because your trainer can want it for you, your family can want it for you, your friends can want it for you, but if you don't want it for yourself, you're never going to get it, you know. So that's probably the biggest lesson. I was a bit of a, I wouldn't say spoiled, but I was a bit sort of looked after as a kid, growing up with so many older siblings and things like that, and that might have softened me up a little bit when I was a bit younger. But as I've gotten a bit older, you know, I've realized that there is no substitute for hard work, man. There is no substitute for making sure that you've dotted the I's and crossed the T's, man. That's all there is in the sport, especially in a sport like boxing, man.
Wow. Who's the one person you believe has been a mentor, someone you've looked up to in your life that's made the most difference to you and the way you look at life?
Besides Billy Hussein.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention Billy there.
Yeah.
Billy Hussein's definitely been one of them. My brother Billy as well. I do have a mentor named Sid, who sort of is there in the background, but he was a big part of me. I call it the sort of the how can I put it? Like, it was like the turning point of my career, where, you know, I was working full time for my brother Emad, running his business. You know, I had 60 guys working under me at one point, and you know, it wasn't until I met Sid, you know, by chance, and had a nice conversation with Sid, that he sort of changed the trajectory of my career, because I was just sort of flying by, probably not really believing that I was going to do anything special in the sport. You know, I was aiming to, but working full time and not, you know, putting everything that you can possibly put into boxing is not going to work, you know. And it wasn't until I met him and he explained that to me and gave me a way to you know, it was a very hard conversation for me to have with my brother Emad, to tell him that, you know, look, I'm going to go on and box full time, and I've got to walk away from your business. It was a very hard conversation to have, but Sid helped me through that, and he's played a big part. And then, man, my father, like, far out. How could I forget my father? Because it's not just that he's always been there for me, man, but, like, you know, like I said, the youngest of 7 children, I probably felt like I was the forgotten one a lot when I was younger. But you know, as you grow a bit older, you realize that you're never forgotten. You know, it's just he did his part with all of my older brothers, and they played their roles in helping raise me as well. You know, so that relationship that I've had unfurl with my father over the last 5-10 years, especially when I got married and, you know, moved into my own home and things like that. He's played a massive role in making me the person that I am. You know, not so much boxing wise, because he never really wanted me to box. He wanted me to use my brains and, you know, always encouraged me. He's the reason why I went through university. He's the reason why I you know, got a degree in journalism. So, I can't thank him enough, man, for everything that he's done for me.
And to speak so eloquently on the Raw Sport podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Wow, there you go. All right, Youssef, mate, you've been very generous with your time. You've been amazing. Before we wrap things up, do you have any parting words for us, mate?
Look, I just want to thank you both for having me on, and I hope people do get behind this podcast. And I've watched a few of your episodes, man, and they're all very entertaining. And for everybody that's a boxing fan, even if you're not a boxing fan, tune in on July 10th, and if you can be there in Wollongong, but if not, grab the pay-per-view, man, because it's going to be a really exciting show, and I believe that this is going to be my coming out party more than anything, man. This is going to show that I'm one of the best fighters in Australia, so please get behind me.
Hey, Youssef, before we let you go, we want you to give you a shout out to your son.
Yeah, my son Jabril, and I can't forget my daughter Aaliyah either. But they've both been a massive part of my life. But especially Jabril, who has beaten all the boundaries that they said that were going to be in front of him. They said that he wasn't going to walk, he wasn't going to talk, and he's done that. We're so proud of him. And, I hope one day he does get to watch over things like this and realize that his dad is so thankful to have him in my life,
Have you got any socials where all you can fans jump on and see your progress? Yeah,
look, I'm on Instagram at Uwe_Dib. So UWEE_DIB. That's about it. I got off Facebook a while ago and try and just sort of plug my stuff on Instagram. I try not to be too active and erratic on Instagram, even though people say that goes against me, but it is what it is, man. I'm a family man. I got time for my family, not for social media.
You got any sponsors that you want to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, well, look, G'd Up have come on board, for the last 3-4 fights, and they've made an amazing difference. They pretty much changed the trajectory of my career by with their support and their backing. It means that I don't have to go to work, I don't have to train people, I don't have to do PTs. I can put my wholehearted focus into boxing, and I'm grateful to them.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Youssef Dib, thank you very much for joining us on Raw Sport. Take care, everyone. We'll catch you all in the next episode of Raw Sport. Take care.